Since Ataturk's death in 1938, Kemalism, at the heart of which is the principle of secularism, has become the dominant ideology of the Turkish state. But there is an increasing feeling in some quarters that this Kemalist status quo is coming under threat. In reaction to this threat against Ataturk's secular legacy, Turkish nationalism is on the rise.
There are other icons that are being put up in Turkey, like over there you'll see this huge Turkish flag that's gone up recently. You see them all over the country now, and which is a symbol of a more aggressive nationalism.
The real fundamentalism in this country, the really serious fundamentalism, the really dangerous fundamentalism, is the nationalist fundamentalism. And it has been in power for 80 years, and its rule has not been uniformly good for this country.
Nationalist symbols are everywhere in Turkey. National flags and pictures of Ataturk. Perhaps this is a reaction to a perceived threat, the threat of the very thing Ataturk strove to remove from political life: religion. The AK party has been in power in Turkey since 2001. It draws its support from the marginalized of Turkish society, many of whom maintain a traditional Islamic way of life. The ruling party dismisses the idea that it is seeking to overturn the secular system, and it accuses those who say it wants to introduce Islam into political life of scaremongering. Yet earlier this year, the political system fell into turmoil after the opposition refused to accept the AK nomination for President Abdullah Gül, claiming the secularist system would be endangered if both President and Prime Minister were members of the AK party. It is in the context of this contest that Ataturk's memory is being revived. Ataturk's image is everywhere in Turkey, and it's big business. This factory just outside of Istanbul produces thousands of statues and busts of the national hero every year. And with the elections approaching, demand has never been higher. The owner of the factory explained to me that the statues are commissioned by government officers, schools and individuals. But why are Turks putting their leader on such open display decades after his death? To find out, I visited a branch of the Ataturk Thought Association. The very name had a slightly sinister ring to it, and as I entered, it seemed that I wasn't alone. Ataturk's image was all over, and unnervingly, his eyes were watching me.
We established the Ataturk Thought Association in 1989. At that time, society was being purposefully and systematically distanced from Kemalist thought. We wanted to stop this perversion and make sure society remained under Kemalist ideology. We educate young people in an attempt to spread Kemalist thought. Ataturk's thoughts cannot be kept alive by ceremony and gestures, nor can he be protected by laws. You protect him by spreading his ideas and keeping them alive.
Şener Erüger was involved in organizing the recent protest against Gül's presidential nomination. So too was Bedri Beykem. He is one of Turkey's foremost contemporary artists. People often associated with a love of the new and irreverence towards past heroes. But not Mr. Beykem. He uses Ataturk's image in his art for unapologetically political ends.
This country in the last 20 years probably has done nothing but criticizing Ataturk. But when we look to the country overall, the more he's attacked or the more his legacy becomes hot politics for today's Turkey, the love for his image grows. You have more and more people wearing pins of Ataturk or having Ataturk's portrait put in their house, or the way they put the Turkish flag out in important national days. Believe me, a key word, you have to be Turkish to understand why his image is there, why it's not just there to veneer as a Buddha, and why this love and respect for his image is so constantly present without being a threat to free thinking or democracy of a free person.
But not all of Turkey's 70 million people are Turks. Some 15 million, or 20% of the population, are Kurds. The Kurds were promised an independent homeland at the Treaty of Sèvres, but this dream was quashed following the creation of the Turkish Republic. Groups such as the PKK have continued the struggle for self-rule, leading to over 30,000 deaths in the past 25 years. Many Kurds have a less than enthusiastic opinion of Kemalism. Tarık Ziya Akinci has devoted his life to studying Turkey's Kurds.
Ataturk treated Kurds and Turks as equals. He recognized the rights of the Kurds. But the Turkish nationalism, which was imposed on Turkey after the 1950s, changed all that. Today, in the constitution, there is a clause that every citizen of this country must identify himself as Turkish. You are a traitor to this country if you do not call yourself a Turk. Turkishness was forced on the Kurds by the military-civil establishment, which sees itself as being above the law.
Ataturk was feted for his skill and bravery as a soldier, and the military continues to hold him in the highest esteem. It considers itself a champion of Ataturk and Kemalism. To this day, Ataturk's place of rest, this mausoleum in Ankara, is guarded by the military, and it is army officers who lead the tributes on the anniversary of his death. On a number of occasions since Ataturk's death, the military has mounted coups. They have never remained in direct power, but neither have they tolerated a political outcome that would threaten the Kemalist status quo. General Oktar Ataman was in the Turkish military for 43 years and recently retired from a senior role. Mr. Ataman defended the military's intervention in Turkey's political system with an unusual but revealing metaphor, and one which may serve as a warning to the ruling AK party not to overstep the mark.
When my son was a small child, I bought him a model train set, but he had difficulty in providing the right speed for the train. The train oversped and derailed. I put it back on the tracks for him, and he went on playing with it. Perhaps that describes the military's situation in Turkey. The military likes to do its own job and not meddle in politics. But every now and then there comes a stage when the military is forced to intervene and put the train back on its democratic tracks. Those interferences only take place when the Turkish constitution is endangered, especially the first articles such as secularity, democracy, law and order.
It is Turkish intellectuals who are most critical of the state's paternalistic role. They feel it is becoming less tolerant of dissent. State laws have been introduced banning criticism of Ataturk and Turkishness, and there have been high-profile attempts to prosecute figures such as Nobel Prize-winning author Orhan Pamuk. Ragip Zaroklu is a publisher who has himself been prosecuted under such laws.
I can define Turkey, it is the last totalitarian state in Europe. Before there were several books published which criticized Ataturk policy, Kemalism, and there was no problem.
Another intellectual who is concerned about the state's attitude to criticism of Ataturk and his legacy is Sevan Nisanyan. In the current political climate, he won't risk publication of his latest book, preferring to distribute it privately.
I've written a book about the founding of the Republic, and it's a book of a series of questions about what Kemal Ataturk means and what his legacy is. For this country, it is considered a rather radical questioning. I mean, you don't question great idols. These things are risky in Turkey. You know, you don't discuss Ataturk openly in Turkey. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, including a lot of judges and a lot of soldiers too, consider this a very serious attack on national honor.
The law prohibiting criticism of Ataturk was passed after his death. However, in his time, he accepted criticism, For example, an English writer wrote a book about him, claiming that he liked to drink a lot and lived a life of leisure and pleasure. Those around Ataturk banned the book, but when Ataturk read it, he said, "Why did you ban it? It actually understates my fondness for drink, rather than exaggerating it."
Ataturk died 7 decades ago, but his legacy, expressed through the idea of secularism, is still very much alive in the Turkey of today. He is indispensable to all sides of the political debate. But that, say some, is the very problem.
Turkey has to move on from expecting that Kemal Ataturk has an answer for everything. He should be seen more as a historic figure than someone who can be brought back to life at every occasion.
The straitjacket that Turkey has been imprisoned in is not holding anymore. It's just breaking at every seam.
There are signs that the status quo which Ataturk has been used to maintain in Turkey, in which the army wields significant power, minorities are oppressed, freedom of speech seriously curtailed, and Islam kept out of politics, may not hold forever. Ataturk is the unquestioned national hero, the man who drove out occupiers and created the Republic of Turkey. His achievements are clear. It is now for Turks to decide if he is to be remembered as a benign father or an overbearing big brother.